Zuko begins Avatar The Last Airbender as a total loner. There are few people who understand him, and he does not even understand himself. Creative writing classes love discussing characters in terms of wants versus needs, and there are a few examples where a character's wants are so divorced from their needs, as is the case with Zuko at the beginning of Avatar. What he wants is to capture the Avatar, as he believes this will convince his father, who has hitherto rejected him and exiled him, to change his mind and accept him again. The problem, of course, is that Zuko's father is a horrible tyrant. But Zuko is not thinking along those lines. Raised to believe in the honor of his father and the country his father rules, he believes his father's values are right and good and worth replicating, and he struggles to get back in his father's good graces. That's what he wants more than anything. What he needs is to stop defining himself by the values of his father and the values of the Fire Nation, not only because his father is a brutal tyrant who burned his face because Zuko did not want to fight him in an Agni Kai, but also because the Fire Nation has waged colonial war on the rest of the world for the last 100 years, resulting in almost unprecedented suffering and misery, draining these countries of their resources and leaving them poor, leaving them broken, leaving them unable to move forward. All of this should be at least somewhat straightforward if you are familiar with Zuko's story or the story of Avatar The Last Airbender as a show. The only person at the start of Avatar who knows what is right for Zuko is his uncle, Iroh, and Zuko won't listen to Iroh because he can't accept values that are so different from the values he's been raised in. And he's also been taught Uncle Iroh is a failure because of his defeat at Ba Sing Se. So he believes he should regard his uncle as a much lower authority than his father, even as his emotions tell him otherwise. Iroh does not get angry that Zuko won't listen to him. He knows that he can't force Zuko to find the path of good and righteousness. That's something one can only do for oneself. You can help someone go down the right path, and you can try to direct someone toward the light if they're receptive, but you can't make someone be good. You can't make someone be moral. You can't make someone come to a realization. That's something they have to do for themselves. I've heard a lot of people complain that Zuko does not mention Iroh in episode 311, The Day of Black Sun Part 2, when he responds to one of his father's demeaning comments by saying that he learned everything and he learned it on his own. They say that Zuko should have given more credit to Iroh in this moment, but there are a few problems with that. Number one, Zuko does mention Iroh multiple times throughout the speech. This is just a case of people taking something way out of context and twisting it, which is rather annoying, but more importantly and more thematically relevant, think about what Iroh says to Zuko in episode 319, The Old Masters. Iroh himself says that Zuko found his way by himself, because Iroh understands that despite the help you can give someone, you can't turn them toward righteousness. Iroh gave Zuko every opportunity to choose right, but you can't make someone do that. Not if you want to affect the kind of fundamental moral change that Iroh wanted to affect in Zuko. You can just give someone hints and tips and then hope they find their way on their own, as Zuko did. Others cannot save your soul. They can help lead you toward enlightenment, but you have to cross that bridge yourself. A number of characters help Zuko on his journey to self-enlightenment. Iroh is the most prominent and the earliest person to help Zuko, but he is not the only one. Aang offers Zuko help when no one else would. Despite all Zuko has done to him, despite Zuko spending most of Season 1 chasing Aang all over the world, Aang is still willing to forgive him. Aang is still willing to give him another chance. Zuko is not yet in a mental position where he can contemplate accepting Aang's offer. He cannot consider deviating from the course he is on because although he has his problems with this mission to capture the Avatar, a mission that has been spectacularly unsuccessful so far, he still believes that mission is essential to get what he really wants at this point, and what he really wants is his father's approval. As long as he still wants his father's approval, he cannot accept an offer like Aang's. So he rejects Aang's kind offer, but the thought still lingers in Zuko's mind. Can he be friends with this strange 112-year-old monk child who offered him kindness and forgiveness, even though Zuko has not demonstrated any deserving of kindness or forgiveness? It's kindness that Zuko has not recently experienced. Aside from his uncle, whom Zuko really does care about, but treats poorly, because that's what he believes he should do, because his uncle's viewed as a failure, and also because his uncle stands in the way of what he believes he wants. Aside from his uncle, no one has shown Zuko that level of kindness and tenderness since Zuko's mother left. But while Aang tries to express compassion for Zuko, he does not understand Zuko's dilemma. Not really. What Zuko says early in the show, that Aang does not understand the pressure Zuko's father exerts on him because Aang was raised by monks, that's intended as an insult, but there's a lot more truth to that than I think Zuko is willing to admit. It's one reason that Aang cannot really understand. But another, and perhaps a more important reason, is that Aang is always looking on the bright side of life. He's this cheery, Pollyannish figure, always looking for the best in people. Yes, he is prone to fits of anger and disappointment, but these are more childish caprices than an honest expression of anger and bitterness that lingers in his spirit. Any bitterness Aang has usually evaporates before long. He always tries to stay on the sunny side of existence. His disappointments do not haunt his life in the same way that Zuko's disappointments haunt Zuko's life. Aang does not linger on these things. With a child's energy, he forges ahead, unburdened. Now, the other members of Team Avatar do a lot more to relate to Zuko's pain. Toph never gets to travel on a life-changing field trip with Zuko, very unfortunately, but their stories are very similar. They're both stories of self-discovery. That is only possible when one gets away from controlling parents. Despite Toph's best efforts, she and Zuko don't talk much about their parents and the shared struggle of trying to forge your own identity, and that's a shame. I really think they could have played that seriously instead of as a joke, wherein Toph's pain is treated as melodramatic by Zuko. And it is very true that Toph prefers to deflect from her pain with jokes and irony and taunts instead of actually dealing with it. But the connection between them is still strong. What I think of is episode 317, The Ember Island Players, wherein the show spends so much time on Aang and Katara, wherein Aang is so angry that the play puts Katara and Zuko together. But the most affecting scene in that episode for me is with Zuko and Toph. And in that scene, Toph talks about her own meeting with Iroh and how Iroh always talked about Zuko and how she believes that Iroh will forgive him, that Zuko has redeemed himself by turning away from his parents and joining the Avatar, something that Toph herself knows is a lot of work because of her own struggles. But the member of Team Avatar he most connects with on an ineffable spiritual level is Katara. When they're thrown into prison in Ba Sing Se, Katara directs this vicious string of insults at him. It's a barrage. Season 1 Zuko would have reacted with bitterness and rage, claiming that she has no idea what he's gone through, which is true, but he, by this point, recognizes the pain Katara has gone through. He empathizes with the struggle of others, so he does not lash out at her. Instead, he just listens. The one comment he makes, that evil is not in his blood, is as much a reference to Uncle Iroh as it is a reference to himself. But mostly he just listens and empathizes and eventually says to her that he can relate because the Fire Nation took his mother away from him too. Obviously the circumstances were much different and Zuko doesn't pretend otherwise, but he does say he understands her, and he proves to Katara that he does. He understands the sheer torment she's going through a lot more than the other members of Team Avatar. He doesn't just respond to her pain with the rote, "I'm sorry that happened to you." Instead, he shares his own experiences, and this is hard for him. The one time Zuko has told other people about his backstory was in the last episode of Season 1, The Siege of the North Part 2, when he's talking to Aang, and he only allows himself to say this because Aang is conked out. He's unconscious in the spirit world. I wonder if he has even told Iroh about some of this stuff about his mother. Probably not, so this is a big deal for him, just opening up to someone like Katara, someone who was just a couple minutes ago tossing this string of insults at him. But he does it because he knows Katara will understand, and she does. Her entire perception of him is changed in a relatively short amount of time. Not only is he a real person with thoughts and feelings and experiences and a history, instead of just being a featureless villain, but he's an emotionally intelligent, thoughtful, caring person who can understand the turmoil she's going through. He's already helped Appa, but this is the first time in Season 2 wherein he's helped another human being, someone he didn't have to help, someone he does not really get anything out of helping, and received for that selfless act acceptance instead of ridicule like he got in Zuko alone. This is a major moment for him, proving that, yes, opening up to people and reaching out and trying to help them does not have to be a fool's game. He is so close to turning to the light here, and yes, it's true that he doesn't do that here, instead betraying her by the end of the episode, but he never forgets her response to him. And this is a big reason why he tries so dang hard to convince her to accept him in Season 3, even going so far as to offer her the one thing she really wants, the promise of revenge, just so she won't hate him anymore, just so that she'll give him another chance. May is not a bad person, but even when they're together at the end of the show, there's no sign that she understands Zuko as being a different person than the person she knew as a child, or that she has any insight as to the turmoil Zuko is going through and the process of change he has undergone. Katara does. When they are together, he does not have to fear that the person he is talking to won't understand his tumult and grief and his struggle toward the light. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Even $1 or $2 would really help. Seriously. Obviously, you don't have to give if you don't want to. I recognize times are hard, but just $1 or $2 is a big help. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Keep watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is a brilliant, clever, evocative show that I am so glad is finally getting the attention it deserves. I really hope its reputation only increases with time. Adios, comrades.